Well, I started playing a game from a genre that I previously said brings out the worst in me, namely one of the Soulsborne games. It just constantly reminds me that I am not a good player and this game just brings out the worst in me, as we've seen. And while that is the case when streaming, I did continue Elden Ring with a friend that I know since kindergarten, and I have found it very enjoyable this way. I have yet to beat it with him, but this video is not about Elden Ring, as you probably have already guessed from the title and thumbnail. This video is about Bloodborne.
Watch out, you ain't never seen a beast. I don't always have control, he could be me. Got a chip on his shoulder and he got some sharp teeth. Anyone in my way, and anyone who betrayed, anyone I have to face, I'll wipe them out like the plague.
Bloodborne released on PlayStation 4 on March 24th, 2015 and has become probably one of, if not the most iconic in the Soulsborne series due to its vibe, setting and lore. Now, I don't think that I need to explain what Soulsborne games are categorized as via genre, as Soulsborne for me, or well, Souls-like as well, is just simply another genre of game in and of itself. Bloodborne seems to draw heavy inspiration from the works of Howard Phillips Lovecraft, a writer of cosmic horror that came to be known as Lovecraftian horror due to its popularity and influence on the genre, who is also the creator of the most famous, or rather infamous, fictional book, the Necronomicon. And while all of this is the case, Bloodborne still manages to create its own world and setting while drawing heavy inspiration from this, which I believe is just awesome. I do enjoy Lovecraft's works, and Yharnam seems to draw inspiration from the books like Shadow over Innsmouth, Dagon, and Call of Cthulhu, alongside just the whole Cthulhu mythos in general. And I can only recommend Howard P. Lovecraft's books, even if he, well, let's just say it how it is, was a plain racist, and just a very weird person in general, even if I do not condone the thoughts that Lovecraft had, and am very much against any discrimination of any sorts, as should be obvious. And due to all of this, and me hearing about the game eventually, I believe that Bloodborne was the Soulsborne game for me in 2019, and thus bought it, yet I never got past the first bonfire crowd and gave up playing, and eventually, while playing Elden Ring with my aforementioned friend, I gave him the copy that I owned, as he wanted to play it. Then, when I got my PS5, it somehow seems to have transferred over, and I re-downloaded it on the 18th of May 2026, which was also when I realized that this game somehow is still on my PlayStation 5, despite me never having bought it for this console. I decided to try it out again, simply because while I was playing Elden Ring with my friend, I simply had that itch to continue playing a Soulsborne game, yet I did not wish to continue Elden Ring, as we played this game together and thus we should beat it together. At least that's how I see it. And thus my journey through Yharnam and the world of Bloodborne began. Now, I would rather not get spoilers or tips on the game in the comments, so that I can go through it at my own pace and build my character in whichever way I want to, even if you will see my build in this video, as should be obvious, as that is what I can talk about with this being my first proper playthrough of the game. Outsider of Yharnam, a human that receives a blood transfusion and signs a contract to partake in something called a hunt by a doctor who only mentions something known as pale blood. After warning the player that the upcoming journey may look like a bad dream, you black out. You are transported to a spectral realm known as the Hunter's Dream. To find pale blood and escape the dream, the newly awakened hunter must slay the beasts ravaging Yharnam and ended the plague. Now, I'm not very knowledgeable about the lore, and my ex who got a platinum trophy in this game gave me a brief explanation, alongside me also watching lore videos and asking GPT about it. Yet all of this just ended up being very confusing to me and giving me a headache. But apparently women are very important to the story, so it is apparently good that I picked a female hunter, and it is also about old blood from the great old ones. That part I actually kind of get, like beardy old blood type shit. And it is also about violence towards women of, well, to say it in a way YouTube doesn't fucking ban me, well, violence towards women of the adult kind, if you pick up what I'm trying to put down here. Either someone in the comments can explain the lore properly, or watch one of the many YouTube videos about the lore. Honestly, that is a way better way of getting the lore than me explaining it here, as it would A, take too much time for this video, and B, me not fully understanding it. I will be fully honest here. As gear-wise, I immediately wanted to have a stylish hunter that wields a threaded cane and a pistol to match, and thus I asked my ex on armor. Well, turns out the armor is mostly cosmetic, and thus I looked at the wiki. Listen, I'm not going in without looking stuff up, like weapon or item locations. My only rule is not to look up, well, the weaknesses of bosses, and even looking up where they are is not helpful because I just don't understand the descriptions. Well, I looked through the wiki and eventually settled on the knight's boots, Hexzone's gloves, the crow feather garb from Elaine. I am still sorry about what happened, you'll see that in a minute, and the tomb prospector's hood. And I want to talk about the garb and why I unlocked it at level 30 before even entering Old Yharnam for the first time and beating Mika or the blood-starved beast. The garb is obtained from Eileen the Crow, a hunter of hunters that kills hunters when they turn insane when you do a quest for her or simply killing her. Due to her being an NPC, she has a very good AI implanted in her. Well, to make a long story short, I accidentally aggroed her and thus needed to kill her. I then grinded to level 30 after defeating Gascon and fought her. And well, this is how that ended.
You can't go on like this.
Well, not a honorable end, and I definitely could have beaten her in that attempt normally, which I would have actually preferred. Yet alas, here we are and I have the armor now, which shows my very weird priorities, because I spent 18,000 blood echoes that I farmed over the course of like 15 minutes and used all of it on a single piece of clothing instead of leveling up and becoming stronger. But if you've been around this channel for a bit, you know I play games like an absolute buffoon. You can't blame me for wanting that Bloodborne drip now, can you? I also got the gloves I mentioned before for 1 insight, after defeating Gascon as mentioned before. Speaking of insight, that is also a neat mechanic that allows you to see more of the world in a way, and the more insight you have, the more enemies appear, or the more stuff shows up for you in the world. For example, you can only interact with the doll after having gained 1 insight through facing the cleric beast, which I beat after a few level ups, and made me feel like the biggest badass to ever exist, especially due to how close that was on my 3rd attempt. The fighting in general feels very good. I mean, realistic. Your hits are interrupted by walls or objects that you can't destroy and bounce off them, which forces you to care about positioning and movement. You never feel like you're overpowered in Soulsborne games, which is the whole damn point, as these games are always about you fighting against impossible odds. The beauty of which I did not get until after playing about 50 hours of Elden Ring with my friend. The game genuinely altered my brain in a way. Elden Ring, I mean. And I don't know why, but I somehow enjoy it. Either way, I picked the threaded cane as mentioned before and as you've seen, which works as I love the fast swings in the cane mode and the wide sweeps in whip mode. And I like whip swords, what can I say? They're just cool. And especially with the crow feather guard, it just looks epic. The parry mechanic that you use the firearm, in my case the hunter pistol, for is definitely interesting, but feels cool and appropriate to the game to me in a way, and defense is already heavily discouraged in Bloodborne. I like the focus on engaging and the more aggressive style that Bloodborne pushes over the slow and defensive style of Elden Ring, and I just love this very fast-paced flow of combat. As mentioned, the main weapon for me is the threaded cane, and is a weapon that scales with skill. The cane itself deals a decent amount of damage in my opinion, and is good against single targets for 1 or 2 strikes, before dodging away and re-engaging. And I usually use it for fast enemies that I fight one-on-one or just fighting one-on-one. The whip form on the other hand is more about crowd control, yet it has a larger range and less damage, and also slower recovery times, and it just takes more time to get an attack out. I like using it for bosses and groups of enemies and enemies with long ranges, as the whip also is slower with attacks and thus not as good for fast enemies with short times between attacks. It is considered the worst starting weapon in the game, despite the whip being very good against beasts in my opinion. The rally mechanic, which is regaining health after a hit by responding fast with your own attacks, also works well for the game, as it allows you to survive just a tad bit longer and simply rounds out a fast-paced, engagement-focused combat when fighting enemies. I generally differentiate between 4 types of enemies in Soulsborne games: foot soldiers, heavies, bosses and humans. Foot soldiers are the enemies found all throughout Yharnam, or well, any Soulsborne world, that can be dealt with rather easily. Cannon fodder, basically, that you'll get to farm blood echoes, you need to repair your weapons, improve them, level up, buy things, etc. Heavies are the bigger and tankier enemies that usually take way more hits to take down, that can hit like a dump truck, are sometimes introduced as whole ass bosses, and that can't be farmed as easily as the foot soldier type enemies. Bosses are the, well, boss fights at the end of an area, and I doubt that I need to explain Soulsborne bosses here. They are difficult, annoying, have a lot of HP, and are somehow still fun to fight, even if they still hit like a fucking dump truck. I really do not get how that works, but I somehow really love it. Meanwhile, humans are NPCs that act like fighting another player, and I absolutely hate it. The fight against Eileen was okay, yet every other human feels more difficult than a single boss to me. Overall, Bloodborne is a game that scratches an odd itch, and it is the itch of wanting to face and overcome impossible odds to achieve your goal. It is difficult, yet feels more forgiving than Dark Souls, which I have tried for a bit and gave up on, and to me Bloodborne is even more intuitive than Elden Ring, which is considered the easiest in the Soulsborne genre, at least to my knowledge. I know I didn't cover a lot, like the rally mechanic, the details of insight and combat in depth, and many other things that this game offers, yet that would make this video way too long, and my videos are overall just overviews of the game, so you know it without major spoilers. If you feel like I still missed anything in that regard, write it down in the comments and I will pin it. As of recording, I only defeated Glasscone, the Cleric Beast and Vika, so I can't speak much on the game, but I can definitely say that this game is absolutely amazing. Makes me wonder why FromSoftware isn't doing jack shit with it beyond a movie that Jacksepticeye is making, that I am very much looking forward to. I'm so excited for it. If you made it to the end of the video here, leave a like. Kind of been that awful if you stuck around, right? Subscribe if you want to see more. Now check out my review on a different game that has themes of dark horror, which is Warhammer 40k Darktide, or watch my latest video here, as I think you'd enjoy that too. But that's all the time I have for now, and with that,
Farewell, good hunter. May you find your worth in the waking world.